Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 46 of the Dear Herbalist Podcast titled Managing Drug-Herb Interactions. If you are new here, welcome. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for your continued support. I absolutely appreciate it. Let's get into today's topic. Today, we are going to talk about managing herb-drug interactions. The reason why I'm talking about this topic today is because I think it's very important for herbalists especially to understand how herbs and how pharmaceutical medications can interact with each other. I wish I could say that the clients that come to us are absolutely pharmaceutical drug free, but the reality of it is that is not the case. They do come, they do have their pharmaceutical medications. Some of them are on their way out taking them. Some of them are taking them currently. And then others, they're like, you know what, I'm going to continue to take them until I really fully understand how this herbal medicine stuff works. So because of that, it's important for us herbalists to understand how our herbal remedies that we may recommend, how they're going to interact with the pharmaceutical medications that our clients might be taking. Because sometimes they're not always honest. They may say, no, I'm not taking anything, because they know that you believe in natural medicine. But you need to know, and they need to disclose that. And oftentimes, like I said before, they don't even disclose it to their doctors. They go to one doctor, get one medication, go to the next doctor, get another medication. They don't tell that doctor the medication they got from the person before. So because of that, us as herbalists, we are no different in that regard. They probably would do the same to us as well. So we need to know, right? So let's get into this. Now, as we are all aware, our clients may be taking pharmaceutical medications, and we need to know what they are, especially because we are recommending herbal remedies. Now, some clients might not have the intention of being on pharmaceutical medications for a long period of time. They may be in transition, in the transitional stage of reducing the dosage over a period of time all the way down to zero. And then some clients, because of a lack of knowledge or fear of using herbal medicines, may not want to let go of their pharmaceutical medicines, and they might be taking them on the side, with or without your knowledge. Either way, we still need to know, whether we agree or not, if they are taking the pharmaceutical medications, so that we don't do any harm to our clients. Because remember, the golden rule in herbal medicine is first do no harm. Even if we believe a drug-free life is the best life, not everybody is actually living that out. So, what are herb-drug interactions? Herb-drug interactions happen when compounds in pharmaceutical drugs affect how herbal products work in our body. These interactions can change how herbs and drugs are absorbed, distributed, metabolized, and excreted from the body, potentially making drugs less effective or causing unexpected side effects. We as herbalists must understand and manage these interactions to ensure safe and effective treatments, because these interactions can either enhance or diminish the effects of the herbs or the herbal remedies that we are recommending to our clients. They could also potentially lead to adverse reactions or therapeutic failure, may not even work at all. So we need to know, if they are on prescription medications, what they are. Now let's talk a little bit about how these interactions actually happen. So number one, absorption interactions. Absorption interactions occur when drugs influence how well the herbs are taken up into the bloodstream from the digestive tract, such as by altering stomach acid levels, intestinal movement, or binding to herbal compounds, which can affect the overall absorption and effectiveness of the herbs. So, absorption interactions. Let's look at how it can affect the absorption. Number one, gastric pH changes. So some drugs alter the stomach acid levels, affecting how well herbs are able to dissolve and are absorbed. An example of this would be, medications that reduce stomach acid can impact the absorption of certain herbs that need an acidic environment to actually dissolve. Another one is intestinal motility. So drugs that either speed up or slow down the movement of the intestines can change how much of an herb is actually absorbed. An example of this is you may have a pharmaceutical medicine that can slow down your digestion, which might increase the absorption of herbs, while there are some that actually speed up digestion that might reduce the effectiveness of the herb that you recommend. Another one is binding to phytochemicals. So some drugs can bind directly to the compound in herbs, forming complexes that the body cannot absorb. So an example of this is calcium supplements can bind to certain herbs, which would then in turn reduce their effectiveness. Let's look at another interaction, distribution interactions. So these occur when drugs affect how herbs are transported and distributed throughout your body, such as by altering protein binding or the activity of transport proteins, which can impact the availability or the effectiveness of the herbs. So with protein binding, some drugs and herbs compete for binding to proteins in your blood, affecting how much of each is available to act in the body. An example of this would be warfarin, the pharmaceutical drug warfarin. A blood thinner can be displaced by certain herbs, increasing the risk of bleeding. In terms of membrane transporters, drugs that affect the transport proteins can change how herbs are distributed in the body. An example of this is the cyclosporine can slow down the P-glycoprotein, affecting how much of an herb like St. John's wort reaches different parts of the body. Let's look at metabolism interactions. These typically occur when drugs affect the enzymes that break down herbs in the liver, potentially altering the speed and efficiency at which the herbs are metabolized, and this can impact their effectiveness as well as their safety. So let's look at some of the enzymes that are impacted. Number one, the cytochrome P450 enzymes. Many of drugs and herbs are processed by enzymes in the liver. So pharmaceutical medications can speed up or it can slow down these enzymes, changing how quickly the herbs are broken down. An example of this, rifapentine can speed up the enzyme CYP3A4, reducing the effectiveness of herbs like St. John's wort. Golden seal can slow down CYP3A4 and CYP2D6, affecting how the pharmaceutical drugs are metabolized. So it's important that herbalists understand this and these terms. A lot of times, like, well, do you have to go that deep? You absolutely do, especially if somebody is taking pharmaceutical medications, because again, you can harm that person rather than do good. So as an herbalist, you really do have to educate yourself on this aspect. You really do have to understand how the drugs as well as the herbs interact with each other, not just the fact that they do. And it's not enough just to look at, the general websites that say, well, this one interacts negatively with this one. You need to know the how and you need to know the why. All right. Let's look at some other metabolic enzymes. So some drugs can influence other enzymes that actually metabolize herbs. Okay. And this obviously can change how herbs are processed and eventually are eliminated. Now let's look at your excretion interactions. Excretion interactions occur when drugs alter the way the herbs are actually eliminated from the body. This could be either through your kidneys or through bile. This potentially affects the effectiveness and safety of both the pharmaceutical medications as well as the herbs, because some drugs can change how the herbs are filtered out of the body through the kidneys. So an example of this could be diuretics. Diuretics can actually speed up the elimination of certain herbs, thus reducing their effectiveness. So you don't want them coming out of your body too fast before those medicinal properties can actually be extracted from them. Another one is that some drugs can affect how herbs are excreted through your bile. So medications that reduce bile production can cause herbal compounds to stay in the body longer than necessary. So let's look at some important interactions to know. But before I get into that, if you want to go deeper and study with how these interactions occur, again, you want to go back to focus on how drugs are absorbed, distributed throughout the body, metabolized in the body, and excreted from the body. This is very important for medicinal herbs as well as pharmaceutical medications so that you can understand those properties and how they interact or disrupt each other when they interact with each other, if that makes sense. All right. So important interactions to know. Warfarin, which is a blood thinner, it's a pharmaceutical medication. It interacts with herbs like ginkgo, garlic, and St. John's wort, and this increases bleeding risk. Another pharmaceutical medication is called cyclosporine. This is an immunosuppressant drug. It interacts with St. John's wort, making the drug less effective. Now, if you're on any type of, or your client may be on any type of HIV drugs, which are, they call those protease inhibitors, they can interact with St. John's wort, also reducing their effectiveness, as well as chemotherapy drugs. They also interact with St. John's wort. If you are any type of statins, I know that's one of those pharmaceutical drugs that are often prescribed to clients globally, probably. But these are cholesterol lowering drugs, and they interact with herbs like red yeast rice, black cohosh, and this, of course, increases the side effects of those drugs. So if you have somebody that's on cholesterol lowering drugs, and let's say you want to recommend black cohosh, you want to be careful because it can increase the side effects of the statins. So if you want to do a little more research on there, you can go to PubMed. There's several studies on that. You can check that out. Now, let me give you 5 tips for managing herb-drug interactions. Tip number 1, conduct a thorough patient assessment. Or don't want to say patient, you can say client assessment. We should always obtain a comprehensive medical history, including all prescription drugs, any over-counter medications, supplements, and herbal products that your client is taking. This is essential for identifying potential interactions. Now, I know if you say you're an herbalist, there's a lot of people out there that want to do drive-bys. What can I do for this? What's good for this? But at the end of the day, if you want to give them a more accurate, and a more targeted remedy or recommendation, you really do need that information. Because I can just say, high blood pressure, cholesterol, okay, try this, try that. But at the end of the day, if that herb interacts with their medication that they didn't also mention, now you've done more harm than good. And they're only going to remember the harm you've caused, not the fact that they didn't give you all the information or they didn't disclose all of the information. All right. Now, as an herbalist, there are tons of reputable databases and resources, that are online that can help you research and identify potential herb-drug interactions. So let me give you a few here. Number 1 is the Natural Medicines Comprehensive Database. Another one is the Medscape Interaction Checker. Stokely's Herbal Medicines and Interactions. So check those, and there's several more. There are several more, but also, like I said, look at all aspects of the plant, not just the fact that, St. John's wort interacts negatively with statins. You need to go a little bit deeper than that, especially if you are trying to recommend herbs other than St. John's wort. All right, tip number 2 for managing herb-drug interactions. Make sure that you educate your clients. We should always educate our clients about the importance of disclosing all medications and supplements that they are taking, as well as the potential risk of herb-drug interactions. We want to encourage open communication and report any adverse reactions or changes in symptoms as they occur. We don't want to be, left hanging. We don't want to leave them hanging. We want to make sure that they are educated 100% about the herb. If they are taking any pharmaceutical medications, what those potential interactions are, we want to give 100% disclosure to build trust. And if they trust us, then they will more than likely disclose more information to us. All right, tip number 3, monitor and adjust your protocols. So you want to regularly monitor your clients for signs of any type of herb-drug interactions. And this could be changes in the way the drug is interacting with the body, unexpected side effects, adverse reactions. And you always want to have your clients write this stuff down, especially within the first couple of weeks of taking the herb. So that way they can note what's going on in the body, how they feel. These type of notes are important, especially when they come and visit you again. You'll be able to know, like, okay, this is the experiences that they're having. Maybe I need to adjust either the amount or the type. And you'll be able to know that based on the information that your clients are writing and giving to you. And you can modify the plan accordingly. All right. Tip number 4. Collaborate with healthcare professionals. Now, I know there may be some herbalists out there that are like, I'm not talking to the doctors or pharmacists at all. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But when it comes to the pharmacist, let's just look at the pharmacist here, okay? They have a very strong knowledge in the pharmaceutical drugs that are being recommended or that are being taken. They can give you the chemical properties. They can tell you the potential risk. All of this information you need to know. The doctors can give you some information, but the pharmacists probably know way more than the doctors when it comes to that aspect of it. The characteristics and the chemical composition of the pharmaceutical drugs. So you want to collaborate if they're willing. Sometimes they're not, but sometimes they are. Establish open communication and collaborate with them so that you can understand what they're recommending, why, and then you can also give what you're recommending and why. Now, ultimately, it's up to the patient or the client, depending on which side of the coin they're on, to determine what they want to do. But if you know somebody is taking a particular drug and you know all the ins and outs and the properties of that particular pharmaceutical medication, then you already know how to develop your protocol from there. I'm not saying that, it's a good idea for the client to continue on that path of the herbal protocol and the pharmaceutical drug at the same time. But like I said before, some people are on transition on their way out and they're like, okay, I don't want to just stop my pharmaceutical drug immediately. I have to start tapering it down. And that's more realistic. All right. So, above all, okay, you want to be safe at the end of the day. I wanted to give you a little bit of information, but you want to be safe at the end of the day. You want to make sure that you get as much information from your client as possible and make sure that you build a relationship with them and build trust so that they feel comfortable with you talking about what they are actually taking. Because most people know, okay, if you're coming to me and you're an herbalist, I know that you are against pharmaceutical medication. So because I really don't know too much about herbs yet, I'm not going to really tell you that I'm taking high blood pressure medication or statins or whatever it may be. I'm really not going to tell you that. But I'm going to see what you have. What can you offer me? Not realizing that it's dangerous not to disclose. Just like it's dangerous for them to go to one doctor and tell them these are my symptoms. And the doctor says, okay, I'm going to prescribe this to you. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, let me go to Dr. X now and let me tell him some stuff and see what he says. Of course, he prescribes something different and I'm not going to tell him what Dr. A said. So then I'm going to go to another doctor. And, by the time you've made your rounds, you probably got 3 or 4 different prescriptions. You've probably taken them all. Okay. And you're hurting yourself rather than doing good. And so the clients need to know that no matter what, if you are taking it, here's some education and information so that hopefully, yes, one day that you can live a natural life and live and get off of these drugs. But in the meantime, since you are taking them, since that chemical is flowing through your veins, it's important for me to know that. So that I know if I'm recommending a herb to address anything, that it's not going to cause you more harm than good. And as herbalists, it's just another layer of our field that we have to know because you can mess around and get sued. We do not have the protections that the medical community has. There's no $250,000, negligence policy out there for us or protections for us, if we do cause harm. And so because of that, we have to take that extra step and that extra layer to make sure. Now, can the client still lie? Sure. But then that means on your end, you need to have disclosures and policies and paperwork. And I know people don't like paperwork, but it's really to protect yourself. And you just want to put it in professional terms in case you lying about what you taking or ain't taking. I cannot be held liable. I'm only making recommendations. You can take them or you can leave them. That's it. That's, in professional language, of course. That is as best as we can do as herbalists. Because it's not worth just jumping out there, believing people face value, not covering yourself in paperwork and all this other kind of stuff, and not taking your time to build a relationship with the client, only for it to turn out to be there was some information missing, and now they're in the hospital because of heart issues or some exacerbated condition that probably would not have happened had they been honest with you and tell you exactly what they're taking. So you got to proceed with caution because of the fact of that, because people are not always so honest. So spend a lot of time trying to build a relationship and build a rapport so that they feel comfortable giving you complete disclosure on the medications they're taking. Okay? So if you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all my social media platforms at The Demystified Herbalist. And until next time, family, I'm out.